Silence no more. Silence no
Well, hello, I'm Janet Morena, Executive Director of Priests for Life. Welcome to Just Ask Janet. Well, I know many of you are so excited about the heartbeat bill being passed in Florida, and it's sticking so far. It's sticking. Even the Supreme Court said, okay, leave it alone, leave it alone. I bet you wondered, how did this all happen? How did this all get started? Well, joining me today is the brainchild, the woman who many years ago, when a lot of people thought she was nuts and crazy, said, we need to protect these babies from the time you can detect a heartbeat. And I can't tell you how many people told my dear friend that this would never happen. So I am so delighted to have joined me today, my dear friend, and I was with her many times, Janet Folger Porter, the person who first thought of the concept of a heartbeat bill. Janet, congratulations and welcome to the program.
Thank you. What a day. You know, I think you were prophetic on the onset. You said Florida. It was actually Texas that passed it, but Florida needs to happen maybe next.
But I'm sorry. I said Florida. I meant Texas.
But I think it's prophetic. We're going to see it happen in Florida too. You know, you're getting a double dose of Janet today. It's kind of nice. You get two Janets for the price of one.
Yeah. But you know, Janet, I originally met you in Florida. I think at the time, you have to remind me what year, you were working, I do believe, for D. James Kennedy back in those days, right?
Yeah, I was the national director of the Center for Reclaiming America back in the day with Dr. D. James Kennedy, and we did a lot of things. We did a presidential debate for one, and a whole lot of things together. And yeah, I got to tell you, Janet, there are a lot of people who I'm taken back to the time when I spoke at Father Frank's meeting, and you were there, and there were people who were, you know, all but shouting me down and say, this heartbeat bill, this is not the way to go, and this is the wrong approach. We need to keep regulating abortion instead of ending it. And I just want to I want to publicly say thank you. You're one of the few people who stood in the beginning and said, no, we're going to stand against those who are fighting this bill because this is what God has used. And I'm very, very grateful to him. And I told him at the onset that when this happens, when this becomes law, that God would get all the glory and all the credit and all the honor. But you get thanks because you were there in the very beginning in that first meeting. You remember National Right to Life didn't like the idea. AUL fought us. There were all kinds of people all over the country, including Ohio Right to Life. And even as we saw in Texas Right to Life fought them until the very end, where they ran to the front of the parade, as so many have done, to claim credit for the bill. But you know what? It doesn't matter. God is the one that's getting the credit, and the whole point of it is we're gonna end abortion, and we have. It's a great day to be a pro-life American today.
It really is. And like you said, to God be the glory. And you know what it is, Janet? I always felt from the time you first told me about this idea, and like you just said, there were some people who didn't think it was a good strategy. And you know what I always say to everybody, no matter what the strategy is, listen, don't stop it.
That's right.
If you don't like the strategy, well, that's okay. You don't have to support it.
That's right.
You don't have to get on board. But can you step aside
That's right.
and let that person who thinks they've got the silver bullet that's going to make progress for those babies, let them go ahead and try it.
You know, and that's...
You'll never know what will be the thing that will be the chink in the armor, the crack in the dam, that will begin to let it crumble.
That's right. You never know which way God's going to use, and what an honor! I'm just so grateful to him that he gave me that idea 11 years ago. And as you know, it was an uphill battle. I mean, we had to fight Ohio Right to Life, who lobbied against the bill, who called for a veto when we finally got the bill passed, not once but twice. You remember maybe the story of how I had to chase after our swing vote through a blizzard to bring her back to get the veto override in the House, and then we had a guy flip. Bill Beagle is a man who can no longer call himself pro-life in the Senate. It was an uphill battle. It was more than a decade from its inception, from the conception of the idea back in November 2010.
And then I know, Janet, I appeared with you and in DC. I forget what year this was, because you were getting support on the Hill to try to make the heartbeat bill federal. Wasn't that
That's
a
right.
district?
It was probably the press conference I believe you came to was 2017, perhaps. We did a few of them, but that was one where God gave us an answer to prayer. I prayed to God for help. We were on a conference call with our buddy Larry Serignano, you remember him, Rochelle Heidelbaum, who's had a couple of abortions, who's used her testimony to save lives. We were on this call, and I said, God, we need some help. You know, we had a handful of co-sponsors in Congress, but we needed more. And it was like someone whispered in my mind the words, Tom DeLay. I said, who do we know that we're not thinking of? And I heard the thought, Tom DeLay. And I called the former U.S. Majority Leader of the United States House of Representatives, and Tom DeLay said yes. And through his help, we lobbied hundreds of members of Congress on the Hill. We ended up with 174 co-sponsors on the federal heartbeat bill, which was more than any other pro-life bill in Congress. And this is the thing. There are people now saying, oh, you know, this will, if you pass heartbeat bills, that'll prevent you from being elected, Republicans. Nothing could be farther from the truth. What happened in Congress? We had a Republican House, a Republican Senate, a Republican White House. We had pro-life judges being ushered into the Supreme Court, and the United States House of Representatives. I talked directly with Paul Ryan. I gave him a heartbeat hero coin. I said, this is you, if you will just bring this bill to a vote. I said, we have 174 co-sponsors, 44 more votes, and we passed the federal heartbeat bill, and he wouldn't do it, Janet. And you know what? The next year, the Republicans lost control of the House. They didn't do what they promised. They didn't do what they ran on. And they've been using, as you know, they've been using babies to get elected for decades, instead of using elections to save babies. And that's really the problem. We've had rhinos that have stood in the way. That was the reason why we couldn't get it through in Ohio for nearly a decade. But I'll tell you what, I didn't know how hard it would be. I didn't know how long it would take. But I'll tell you this, it was worth it. Because now I can go to South Carolina, as I spoke to them, as I went to Texas, and I said, listen, if a purple state like Ohio can pass the heartbeat bill, surely the great state of Texas, Republican House and Senate and governor, you all can do it. And I think we shamed them into it. But the good news is it passed, and I just praise the Lord for it.
It passed in Texas, and I do believe in Florida, they're trying to get the heartbeat bill going, aren't they?
They are. They've had it, just like Michigan, they've had heartbeat bill initiatives to get it on the ballot. But now, I'm told, in Florida, a couple of the Democrat pro-aborts that have been blocking the bill in committee have been removed, which may very well pave the way for a legislative heartbeat bill in the state of Florida. And people are asking me, what's the model? Do you give me a model? I heard from Virginia. I heard from a handful of other states that are now looking to try and what to do next. And let me tell you the difference, Jan. The difference is this. We've all passed federal heartbeat bills. 13 states have passed, state heartbeat bills that had a federal penalty, a criminal penalty, so that you become a felon. If you perform an abortion on a baby with a detectable heartbeat, you're a felon. And whatever degree that may be, you lose your medical license. And that was our strategy. But in Texas, they did something different. They actually went at the heart of the issue. And the heart of the abortion issue is money. As you know, that's why they're doing them. And so what happens is, in the state of Texas, it's not a criminal penalty, but any citizen in the state can file a suit. They file a suit against the abortionist who's violated the Texas heartbeat law, and guess what? They're going to get $10,000 for every lawsuit that they win. And you know what? They can go not just after the abortionist, but anybody who aids and abets in violating the Texas heartbeat law. That means the clinic escorts, the secretaries, the employees, the insurance companies. That is what the Texas heartbeat bill does. You don't have to rely on law enforcement to do your job. You as a citizen can file a suit if you have any knowledge of a Texas heartbeat bill being violated. And, you know, our mutual friend Mark Harrington of Created Equal, I called him up. I said, hey, Mark, I'm not sure that these people are, if they're going to perform abortions, they're going to kill, what makes us think they're not going to lie? Lying comes easy to somebody who's willing to kill. And so I had, could you call around? And so just as we did during the pandemic shutdown, we called around and all the abortion mills to see who was doing them and who wasn't. And we were able to close down in a handful of states abortion mills during the government shutdown. But I had him call around and he says, Jan, they're not doing them. He's called 6 to 8 abortion mills in the state of Texas, and it looks like, at least right now, they are actually obeying the law because they know it's $10,000 for every time they don't.
And so when you do call an abortion clinic right now, I think I want to start doing this. What are they saying to a woman who calls and says, I have a positive pregnancy test. I want to schedule an abortion. What are they saying to them?
They say we do not perform abortions after 6 weeks. Now, again, they're billing this as a 6-week abortion ban. It is not. That's not what this bill says. It is a heartbeat bill. But you notice the pro-aborts want to run from that term because they're running from science when they do. Because we win on heartbeat. You remember the George Barna poll? I showed it at Father Frank's meeting. It basically said that 7 out of 10 in America favor the heartbeat law. 86% of Republicans, and the shocking part that most people didn't believe is that 55%, a majority of Democrats, believe that if a doctor can detect the heartbeat of an unborn baby, that baby should be legally protected. That's where America is right now. And everyone understands if there's a heartbeat, there's life. To deny a heartbeat is to deny science. To ignore it is heartless. And that's why the pro-aborts are all calling this a 6-week ban. No. That's right now a measure of our technology. But as you know, that heart begins to beat inside the mother's womb at 18 days. But right now our technology is not where it needs to be. And as our technology increases, we're going to detect that baby's heartbeat at younger and younger ages and protect more and more children. That's the beauty of the heartbeat bill. As technology improves, we protect even more because we'll detect that heartbeat at younger and younger ages.
And of course, we use the heartbeat not just for the beginning of life, but also at the other end. I mean, when someone keels over in front of you and you rush to help the person, what's the first thing people do?
Well, the first thing they do
to detect a pulse, and the
That's
pulse
right.
is the heartbeat.
You don't automatically plan a funeral, do you, Jan? You check for a pulse because you want to know it's the universally recognized indicator of life. Everybody understands it. Those heart monitors in hospitals, everybody knows those aren't there for decoration. They're there to detect whether or not this person. That's right. We've all seen it. And when you get a flat line, that means you're dead, right? And when it's not, if you don't have a flat line, that means you're alive. We've never been to a funeral of somebody with a beating heart. We get that. And that's the beauty of heartbeat. In fact, I'll just tell you what I found out is we rolled in a mobile ultrasound when we first introduced the first heartbeat bill in Ohio, and we billed it as the youngest to ever testify. We had a 9-week-old unborn baby Haley, who testified, and the pro-aborts went crazy. Janet and her gimmicks, and Janet's just a circus, and all of these things. But I said, isn't it sad that to defend your pro-abortion position, you've got to deny science? That's a sad place to be. And then in Congress, you may remember when we had the hearing on the Hill, when former Congressman, U.S. Congressman Steve King was the chairman of the Judiciary Subcommittee, we had unborn baby Lincoln testify via ultrasound. And you know how these hearings are. The protesters come and they're disruptive and they're all wearing purple. Purple's the new pink, apparently. They're wearing the NARAL purple. And they're all there and they're disruptive. But when little baby Lincoln's heartbeat was seen on that screen, and Congressman King is describing, there's his heart, you can hear it beat, the room was silent except for baby Lincoln's heartbeat. And that's when I realized that as that baby's heart was beating, one of the women who had been previously disruptive just moments before was seen wiping tears from her eyes. And that's when it hit me that this baby's heartbeat can hit, if it can reach even the hardest of hearts, it can reach America. And that, Janet, is what has happened. That's what's happened today in the state of Texas and is going on around the country. 29 states have introduced heartbeat bills. People, when they ask me what model, I say we're going to follow the Texas bill because the Texas bill is actually being enforced. Those babies will live and not die because their heartbeats can be heard, just like any other human being. I mean, it's like an SOS. If you were behind a wall or someone fell in a well, if you could hear a heartbeat, that's a sign of life crying out for help, and we're no longer going to ignore it. And that is an exciting day. It is something. In fact, when I was on with Dr. Dobson today on his radio program, and I said, Doc, you remember the last time I was on? I told you we're going to end abortion. And I asked him, I said, did you believe me? He says, well, we've just been so disappointed for so long. And by the end of the second program, I was on yesterday. By the end of the program today, I said, hey, Doc, we're going to end abortion. And he said, I believe you. People are finally recognizing that this is not just hyperbole. It's not just the optimism of some girl who doesn't really understand things. No, what I've been predicting is happening now, and I just praise God for it.
Absolutely. Father Frank and I have always had the motto here at Priests for Life. We're not here to fight abortion. We're here to end it.
End it. That's right.
Our lifetime.
And you know
That's
what?
our goal.
I'm sick of regulating. I'm tired of talking, tired of marching, tired of regulating. It is time for abortion to end, and that time has come in America.
That's right. So now, Janet, a lot of people are saying, how can we get involved? How can we bring this to our state? You have a great new book out. Hold up the book and tell us
I
about
do.
your book.
Okay, I wrote a book called A Heartbeat Away, all right? And it's here's the subtitle, How the Heartbeat Bill Will Pierce the Heart of Roe versus Wade and the Shocking Betrayal No One Saw Coming. You know a little bit about that, how we fought people who claimed to be pro-life during this battle, and we spell it all out. It's all there. So if you want to pass a heartbeat bill in your state, this is how. I can tell you, we learned a lot. By trying this for a decade, we learned what not to do, what to do, and why go through those mistakes yourselves? Learn from what we've done. And I can tell you this, it doesn't take an army. But, there were times when you remember we had big platforms at the State House. We actually rented every chair they had. I talked to a lady a week ago. She said, I went to your heartbeat rally, but I couldn't get inside the State House. There were too many people. I had to watch it from the overflow outside. And there were times when everybody seemed, and everyone wanted this heartbeat bill. We had just passed it through the House. The Senate was blocking us. But then there were times when we had to play hardball, where we had to run against these rhinos in the Senate, the Republicans in name only, who pretended to be pro-life. I actually had to run against the Senate president. You think that's a real popular view? It is not. There were two polls that showed me dead even, running even with the Senate president, and that's why they had to spend their war chest. I'm told it was $1.3 million that they slandered me, telling everybody I was the pro-abort. There were times when we were fighting this battle that I could count my friends on one hand. At least I knew who they were. But our mutual friend, Mark Crutcher, I'd call him. He said, so Janet, how's it going? I said, not so good, Mark. I said, everyone hates us in the Senate. Our bill's being blocked in Congress. It's being blocked in the Ohio Senate. Ohio Right to Life is lobbying and testifying against us. I said, I can count my friends on one hand. He said to me this. He said, did you go down to the State House to make friends? Or did you go down there to end abortion? And the answer is, we went down there to end abortion, and that's really what it's all about. It matters more than all the photo ops and all the access you may have. A lot of people have chosen access over influence. And you know what? Yeah, I've got the governor's number on my cell phone, but you want to know what matters more than that? Is that we can actually hold their feet to the fire and get what they promised. I mean, if they do what they say, then we celebrate them. But if they block a bill that will protect babies with beating hearts, we're going to call them out no matter how much we used to like them. That's what it comes down to. You need to do whatever it takes. And if you're willing to do that, I'm telling you that you have two people in your state, you can end abortion. You can pass this bill. I talked to New York this week. New York says, we're a pretty purple state. You know that. We're a pretty blue state. I said, you want to know something? Just introducing a heartbeat bill in your state will save lives. Because you know what it does? It's like putting a billboard across your state that says, abortion stops a beating heart. But with a heartbeat bill, a beating heart will stop abortion. And what happened in our case, before we even passed the bill out of committee, just showing the mobile ultrasound, just showing the little baby's heartbeat, it became what they used for all the news. It became what every time they'd go to, whenever they report about the heartbeat bill, we saw that baby in the womb and his beating heart, right? Well, what that did is it told the world that if you're pregnant and you're thinking about abortion, that baby who you're carrying has a detectable heartbeat if you are at least 6 weeks pregnant. And you know what? Just that saved a life. Little baby Aiden. I was told, a woman came up and she said, yeah, that they asked me to drive him to the abortion mill. And I said, once I found out about the heartbeat, I said, I can't do it. And a couple weeks later, she comes running up to me, hugging me. It's a staffer at the State House at the hearing. And she said, I have to tell you, she canceled the appointment. And I later see a little picture of a little boy, baby Aiden, whose life was saved before the heartbeat bill ever passed. And so that can happen wherever you live. If you're in California, you're in New Hampshire, you're in New York, you can introduce a bill and see lives protected.
So the book is, brothers and sisters, A Heartbeat Away, available on Amazon. So I have a surprise for you now, Janet. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Back in May, here at Priests for Life, it was my idea. I didn't know the heartbeat bill in Texas was going to get signed into law, but look at this. I came up with this idea of the baby talking to you. My heart beats just like yours. This
Very nice.
We have, and inside there's our little baby talking to you. And look at those pictures at the 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10th week gestation. And of course, it talks about how many millions of times that heart has been beating at this very, very early stage of development. So my heart beats just like yours. We have a brochure. And look at this, Janet. We have a button. My
Very
heartbeat.
nice.
Look at the baby. The baby is in the O of yours. We have
Nice.
stickers. My heartbeat's just like yours. And finally, I'm going to bring these to the March for Life. I want everyone marching around with this one.
Nice.
Like
Oh, that's
that?
beautiful.
See that baby?
I do. And you know what? I'll tell you, that reminds me, that is the statement that Rebecca Kiesling made. Here she was, the product of rape, and she said, my heart beats too. My heart beats just like yours. And that's why we want to protect every child whose heartbeat can be heard, regardless of how they were conceived. And yeah, if I had that during the battle, I might have been able to win some hearts over a little sooner. It's a great brochure. It's a great sign and T-shirt. But
it's and that's why when you say some things like, to God give the glory, you could see that the Holy Spirit is moving right now, right?
That's right. That's
Because
right.
we have the Mississippi case, and of the 3 questions, okay, that the judges, Supreme Court could have taken, they're taking the question about viability, right? And so that's key. And then right behind that, like, oh my gosh, we're going to have that heard by the Supreme Court. What happens immediately behind that? This Texas bill gets signed into law. It's like, for me, Janet, like, we get a pro-abortion, the most pro-abortion president going, Biden. We get the House in control of Pelosi and Schumer in control of the Senate. So it looks like our pro-life throats are being strangled after January, right? What disappointments. And so many people, I remember right after the inauguration, I couldn't watch anything. They said to me, so Janet, what are you going to do now? I said, I'm going to get up tomorrow morning and still fight to end abortion in my lifetime. I'm not giving up. I don't care who's in the White House. I'm going to keep going forward. And they go, really? You're not, upset? Of course I'm upset, but it's called righteous anger. We're going to keep doing our work. And then look what happens. Who would have thought that there's going to be this case before the Supreme Court, Texas passing this bill? It's like, and like you said, the pro-aborts don't want to call it the heartbeat bill. They want to call it the 6-week abortion ban. And then, you know what I heard? You had to see me. I've been all over this. I've been like on YouTube and going crazy because they're going, oh, the poor women. Oh, my goodness. They barely know they're pregnant and now they can't get an abortion. I said, first of all, this bill protects women because guess what? I have to deal with Silent No More and Rachel's Vineyard, the women who were lied to, who were told, oh, it's not really a baby yet. It's a clump of cells. It's there's the stories, as you know, are long and wide.
Yes.
And then when they finally see an ultrasound of a baby, they go, oh my gosh, that's what my baby looked like. Because the abortion mills, as you know, even if they have an ultrasound there, the ultrasound machine is there to do one thing only, search and destroy mission. How big is that baby? Let's find it, get it, and kill it. Are we going to have to do a suction curettage abortion, or are we going to go a dismemberment abortion based on how big the baby is? And they always, just so everyone understands, every ultrasound machine also has a Doppler where you can hear a heartbeat. And those abortion mills keep that Doppler turned off. And so they are lying to these women because we know if those women see that ultrasound and hear that heartbeat of that baby, 98% of them will get stopped and say, I don't want an abortion.
That's it. We had women come from all over the state, and I just want to say I commend you. I think the most powerful voices in this pro-life movement are the women who know abortion firsthand, the ones that have been there. When Rochelle Heidelbaugh, for example, goes and lobbies with us in Congress, I present the facts, and Tom DeLape gives his presentation. Larry Serigliano, talks about the polling and all of that. But when Rochelle Heidelbaugh talks about her experience of what it was like to have an abortion, I'll tell you what, we see people crying in the members in the halls of Congress and in their offices and the staffers who were previously very, very against us. You see their hearts melt because it is hurting women. It's destroying the lives of their children, and it's really harming women in ways we can't describe. One of the things you mentioned, 98%. We talk about viability. I just want to point out that there's a law journal, and you can get it on Faith to Action, f2a.org, or faith2action.org. There is a law journal written by Professor David Forte. He's the guy that I approached, along with Walter Weber from the American Center for Law and Justice, to draft the first heartbeat bills and many, many more since then. They helped in drafting the Texas bill as we were all working together. There it is. But if you scroll all the way down, there's a model bill. Not just we have the Texas bill as your model, but we also have a law review journal. And you know what the science shows? What it says is that the courts have said, hey, you're allowed to protect children if the child will survive to full term, if the child is quote unquote viable. But you know what the heartbeat bill does? It changes the marker. There you go. You see it there, model bill. You've got your model bill. You've got your polling information. You've got your attorney endorsement. There's the model bill. That's what Texas passed. But let me tell you what it says. That if you have it, what medicine shows is that if you've got a detectable heartbeat in an unborn baby, then you've got a 95 to 98% chance that child will survive to live birth. Which is why when the Arkansas and the North Dakota heartbeat bills went through the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals said this. They were begging the Supreme Court to take this case. They said that not only should the states be deciding, but they said that we have found a better marker, a more, quote, consistent and more certain marker than viability, which, as you know, where the abortionist looks at the ultrasound, takes a measurement, and takes a guess. It can be as much as 90% wrong whether this child is viable. But if you have a detectable heartbeat in that unborn baby, then you've got a 95 to 98% likelihood that child will survive to live birth. We've got a better marker. So instead of being miles away from our goal of conception, right, we are now inches away with heartbeat from where we want to be, and that is protecting every child. And I'll tell you how this whole thing started. Now, not only back in 2010, that's another whole story, but when we needed a Senate sponsor. Briscoe Cain was a state representative who had introduced the bill in Texas, and I was speaking at a National Association of Christian Lawmakers. And we still needed a Texas Senate sponsor. We didn't have one. And we had worked behind the scenes. We've been working on trying to get, in fact, through Tom DeLay and Briscoe Cain, they actually changed the Republican Party platform in Texas to endorse the heartbeat bill. There were a lot of behind-the-scenes work that preceded this victory.
Great.
But one of them is, I just want to say that I heard a senator speak. His name was Brian Hughes. And you know what? At his turn at the platform, he used his time at the platform to present the gospel. And I said, that's my guy. And I texted our House sponsor. I said, what do you think of Brian Hughes? I got a thumbs up emoji. I asked Senator Brian Hughes to sponsor the Texas heartbeat bill. And the next thing, he said yes. And the next thing you know, I'm on the floor of the Texas Senate where they held their hearing. And at the end of the table was the sponsor of the bill, Senator Brian Hughes, who also happened to be the chairman of the committee to vote the bill out. I mean, I didn't even know at the time. I just said, this is a godly man who's using his time to present the gospel. This is who I want. And because of that, we saw that he was not only the sponsor of the bill, but the chairman of the committee that passed it in the Senate, brought it to the House, and then back to the Senate to concur and to the governor to sign. It all started with people who are devoted to God, wholeheartedly devoted to God, and I give them credit for that. And Shelby Slauson in the House also a key player as we saw her step up and pass it in the House in this last go around.
Well, Janet, I have to again say thank you for joining me today. Like we said, to God give the glory.
Amen.
And we're going to go on. Goal is we got 50 states. We got another 49 bills to go. So God bless you. We'll continue to work together, okay?
We're going to end abortion. That's the message. Exactly. We're going to end abortion. It's already begun.
Okay. God bless. Well, brothers and sisters, thank you for joining me today on Just Ask Janet. And if you like those beautiful products I held up like this, My Heart Beats, just like yours t-shirt, go to our online store at prolifeproducts.org. Let's get those heartbeat t-shirts all over and the brochures, and let's educate everyone. And remember, brothers and sisters, there are some abortions only you can stop and some lives only you can save. Join me again next time on Just Ask Janet. God bless.
I will be silent, no.